I used to think that the following was total blasphemy.
This is a hot take. I'm about to say something very controversial, but I believe I am a God. I believe you are a
Ooh.
God. I believe we are all gods.
Your family, mother, father, actually loved you enough on the soul plane to be able to incarnate into the physical plane to create hate on the polarity spectrum so that you can find love.
I have never heard anyone say that.
Yeah.
In the past, I totally would have edited those out. Now, not only do I leave them in, but I try and press even more. You said something that I was like, oh, damn. It says, I'm proposing in this book that you're way more witchy than you believe yourself to be. You have been sold a bag of crap by thinking you were somehow born broken, or that the only way back to wholeness is through salvation by anyone or any deity outside of you. And I was like, what are you talking about? And even if you are the most Christian of all Christians, you know who you are. I don't think you can disagree with what I'm about to say. But first, let me tell you an embarrassing story. Years and years ago, when I was a young lad, I was in this program called Master's Commission. It's through the Assemblies of God, and it's kind of like if an internship had a baby with a Bible school. For 9 months, you would commit your life to ministry for the Lord and literally sign a piece of paper that said you wouldn't date or engage with anything with the opposite sex. Our first year, I think we memorized 400 scriptures. We traveled all over and learned how to be servants of the Lord to a point where, you know, if they would call you up at like 3 a.m. and clean the bathroom, you go do it. Now, they never did anything like that, but that was the extent of our submission to this program. We literally would give our lives to it, and whatever authority was over us, we submitted to. I'm not going to go into all that right now, but I spent 2 years of my life in this program. One of the rules for Master's Commission, your first year, was that you would not date. And then if someone felt like you liked someone from the opposite sex, they would then bring it to leadership, and then you would have a meeting, and then you wouldn't be allowed to talk to that person. It was a whole thing. So imagine this. This is why I'm bringing this topic up. If you're interested in more about it, let me know. As you can imagine, at the end of those 9 months, you had a group of very hormonal 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds who for the past 9 months weren't allowed to talk to, flirt, entertain a thought about somebody with the opposite sex. And whether it's right or wrong, I'm not here to debate that. That suppressed energy, whenever you graduated from being a first-year student and you immediately were allowed to date, guess what everybody did that night? You better believe it. Jesus spoke to their hearts and was like, you know what? It is time. It is time to get with so-and-so. But suppressing something ended up causing an explosion of opposite energy because of how much it was controlled. So you end up with an evening of a lot of people hooking up, whatever that means. Usually it was pretty PG, but you know, the reason people felt so strongly about whoever they liked was less about that person being the right person for them forever and more about a desperate need to express something that you weren't able to for so long. Those of you folks who are not in the Christian community have no idea what I'm talking about. Those of you who are know exactly what I'm talking about. But back to the topic at hand, suppressing something actually intensifies it. Controlling something has the opposite effect on our psyche than you would think. Like, what's that song? Hold on loosely, don't let go. If you cling too tightly, you're gonna lose control. Sorry. So I have been so curious about God and spirituality my entire life. Even from a small child, I just had this deep knowing that there was something else going on. But talking about all the possibilities, asking questions to people, genuine questions to people who believe differently than me, well, that was a big no-no where I grew up. Hashtag evangelical Southern Bible Belt Christian girl. In fact, we were taught that if someone has an opposing belief than you, not only do you need to shut it down and minister to that person, if they don't listen, you can't entertain that thought or even be in their company. Now, some people will argue with me, of course, yeah, sit with people, but there was always an agenda to let them hear you out and you oppose your beliefs on them, like we were trying to get them saved. Think about the craziness in that statement. We were trying to get them saved. Wow. But I digress. All of this boiled down to, and I didn't understand it at the time, and I'm trying to learn it now, is this concept that seeps in without us realizing it of control, aka deep fear. But a few years ago, I heard an idea that just really challenged me. The truth cannot be threatened. Think about that. I thought I was being taught to be certain when really I was being conditioned to be afraid. Here's an example. Let's say I came up to you and I was like, what's it feel like being a penguin? You'd be like, what? I don't think you would get mad at me for calling you a penguin. You would be really freaking curious. You're like, where did you come up with that idea? Isn't that fascinating that that's what you see? Tell me more. I want to hear. You wouldn't be like, I'm not a penguin, you son of a gun. There's that Christian coming out in me. But probably if you heard somebody say something that was totally just wild and out there, you'd be really curious of where they learned that, where'd that idea come from. But the moment that you would get angry, you would wonder, what is being threatened? If you respond in anger, what's inside of you that feels so afraid? So when there is an opposing belief to what you think and you shut it off, edit it out, and don't lean in, my question is, are you really secure with what you believe? If you're threatened by someone else's worldview, do you really own your own? Or are you scared that someone is taking away your sense of security? Because it does feel safe to be controlled. And y'all, I used to be this person. Trust me. Trust me. I used to be terrified to ruffle feathers because I needed to feel secure about what a certain group of people thought. If someone said something to me that I thought was crazy, I would completely edit it out. And now I'm, God willing, leaving it all in, and not only leaving it in, but leaning in. And God help me, staying so curious. Because like Richard Rohr says, the opposite of faith is not doubt, it's control. That's all I got.